Back in 2017, when you and I first drove the Kia Stinger, I made a bold prediction. No one would buy the 6-cylinder, everyone would buy the 4-cylinder. Why? Because think back to 2017. Who in their right mind would spend $50 large on a Kia? Well, apparently, I was wrong. No one bought the 4-cylinder, everyone bought the 6-cylinder, which has sent Kia back to the drawing board for 2022. And while there is still a 4-cylinder, my oh my, has it changed. Okay, so just how much different can an inline 4-cylinder be? Well, if we look at the previous Kia Stinger as a basis of comparison, apparently a lot. You see, that was a 2-liter gas direct injected turbocharged engine. This one is a 2.5-liter gas direct injected turbocharged engine. That should sound incredibly familiar to you because we've driven that same engine in many other cars. Not all of them had a Kia badge on them, many Genesis, and of course that stunning Hyundai Sonata N-Line. But there, the same engine went this way and had 275 horsepower. Here, it has 300 horsepower. Put another way, that's about 50 horsepower more than that 2-liter had in the previous Stinger. 311 pound-feet of torque as well, and the biggest thing is it still drives the rear wheels. Now, this being a 4-cylinder, it's kind of about fuel economy, and here it's respectable, 22, 32, 25 combined. Then there's the performance figures, and they're a bit of a mixed bag. 0 to 60, very respectable at 5.2 seconds. VMAX, kind of a ho-hum, 130 miles an hour. In every instance, when you and I are back behind the wheel of a Kia Stinger, the following thought always dawns on me. We never drive these things enough. And this one, 3,611 pounds, or depending on how you express your weights and measures, 1,638 kilograms, is 180 pounds lighter than the last one we drove, which was a V6, and that was clearly too long ago. So with that, sport mode. Oh, a little bit of hesitation there. That was probably more the auto start. Wow, you got to get this thing into about 3,500, 4,000 RPM to get this engine to work, but God, does it work, man. And I was one of the few people that really liked the 4-cylinder Kia Stinger when it first came out, but that was what, 250 horsepower, which was more than enough for a car that weighs under 3,700 pounds. But this, now it's a lot of power. Now it's a quick car. The way it delivers power is very different than the 6-cylinder. God, this thing is fun. It's very different than the 6-cylinder. The 6-cylinder, it's a faster car than you think, but it's not as fast as it should be. This now is faster than you think, but you've really got to push that engine to make it work. And we've learned this in other applications of this engine. We've driven it in a lot of things. God, we almost lost the back end there. This is a fun little car with this engine. This, I have told you in other episodes, especially in that Sonata N-Line episode, this is probably now my favorite engine from the Hyundai Kia group. And not just the way it delivers power, but it delivers power and sounds good doing it. Now granted, it's not quite as supple as in the V6, because that's really what that engine is about. It's a lot of power and it sounds good in that vehicle. Here you definitely feel the roughness of a larger 4-cylinder, which this is. It does work well in conjunction with the 8-speed torque converter automatic. There has not been an instance in me driving this thing where I feel like I need to use the paddle shifts. The Biermann programming here has done a really good job, even in canyon roads like this. I take my hat off to them with this car. However, I'm thinking that this engine is good enough. It probably needs that wet dual clutch or a derivation of it that would work in a rear drive application, and it would make it even, at least power delivery. God, this thing, it would make it even more fun. Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game, Mind the Options game, with today's contestant, a heavily revised Kia Stinger. This one, the 2022 Kia Stinger GT line rear-wheel drive. That's translated meaning 4-cylinder for $36,090. Now, for those of you that were following along about 3 years ago, that's about $4,000 more expensive in base price for the 4-cylinder. Then we have to discuss that color. Believe it or not, that's green. It's called Ascot Green. When I first saw it, I could have sworn it was a dark gray. Granted, I did see it in a parking garage at LAX at night for the first time, but when you see it in the direct sunlight, it is a stunning color, but the black interior does it no favors. What it needs is actually not like a light gray or a tan. It needs something like a saddle, something that's got more richness to it, to emphasize a contrast and really make the green pop in the Ascot Green. They do not charge extra for it, which I find surprising. The first factory installed option fitted to this 4-cylinder is the Sun and Sound package. I will let you guess what that is, $2,300. Then there are some port installed options. The first one would be the cargo mat. That's this here. It's a mat for the trunk, but this one says Stinger on it for the low price of $125. Then the floor mats. Yes, they do charge you extra for floor mats in a $36,000 vehicle. Can we fix that? At least these are for rear-wheel drive models only, $155. Now, before we get to the final price here, I do need to point out a couple of things here. It's not just the engine that changes here. Notice the front of the vehicle, the lights, they look a little bit more sharper. That's changed for 2022. The wheels also changed for 2022. And then most importantly, on the inside, they've changed the screen. It's still got the tacked on look, but instead of it being like square, almost 4:3 aspect ratio, it's 16:9 aspect ratio. Works much better with the Apple CarPlay. And that brings us to the only other thing we add here, which is the destination handling from Sohari, Korea, $1,045. And that brings us to the total retail price. Are you ready for this? $39,715. Put another way, that's about the base price of a 6-cylinder. Okay, so before you and I get too far down the weeds of driving dynamics, a bit of a recap. Up front, McPherson struts, in the rear, a 5 multi-link unit that is no different than any other Stinger we have driven since, what, 2017. The brakes, that's really one of the bigger differences between this and, say, a 6-cylinder. It's 13.6-inch diameter rotors in the front, 13 in the rear. And what does that mean in terms of differentiation from the 6-cylinder? Well, it'd be 13.8 in the front, and it would be 13.4 in the rear. In terms of pistons, it would be 4 in the front and 1 in the back. In this one, it's 2 in the front, 1 in the back. So now that we understand that, we have to move on to the biggest difference: no adjustable dampers. And that brings about a theme that kind of smacks you across the face when you drive this thing. Now, this is a downright quick car. The way it delivers power is a bit more fun than other 4-cylinders from like Mercedes and BMW. I would argue this is a quicker car, at least the way it feels, over say a BMW 530 or an E-Class with a 4-cylinder. And really what's going on here is you don't have as much control over all planes of motion because it's non-adjustable dampers. Do you need expensive adjustable dampers to fix that? No. I would go so far as to saying that there is a blue sky for a static damper setup, but one that is much stiffer. Maybe make it an option package or a standalone model, like this be the GT line, and that be like the crazy Albert Biermann line, whatever you want to call it, but something that has less of a trade-off between composure and compliance. It's good here, one tune for more around town, less for out here, but I'm thinking the kind of folks that would say no to a Honda Accord or say a Toyota Camry with a lot of options and opt for this want something that feels more German. And this, it's kind of halfway there with this static setup. I think there's more that could be done here to control the pitch, control all planes of motion. And for the avoidance of doubt, the pitch ain't bad, it just could be better. And my guess, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, it's the same issue we found with this car, meaning the 6-cylinder, when we first drove it in 2000, really end of 2017, and that is the fact that you've got a lot of weight high in the car, in the ass end of the car, and that's where you feel the pitch, not in the front. The steering is magnificent. It's very direct, great weighting. I would argue Mercedes could take a page out of the book here of the weighting and put it in their serial production Mercedes cars, even some of their AMGs. It's that good here. The only thing I would add maybe to those stiffer static dampers would be a little bit more stopping power. Again, you've got a lot more go power here. This is a better package in terms of power delivery, but they didn't do a lot in terms of beefing up the other bits of it to make it a more well-rounded package now with 300 horsepower. Okay, so you and I kind of need to power through this part. This is good. It's very good. It's much better than the one it replaces, so much so it's a better argument against the V6. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get to the real issue at hand. There is a nasty rumor circulating in the car world that Kia is going to put a bullet in the back of the head of the Stinger. Kumo, before we got the vehicle, he reached out to his folks at Kia, exchanged a couple emails, and in those emails they said a whole lot of nothing. So this is where we get to the wish list. Please, do not kill the Stinger. Do not become like every other car manufacturer and make nothing but nondescript baby buggies. This is what sets you apart. Yes, the Telluride is lovely, but this is what sets Kia apart. Don't kill it. That is all I have to say. And this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below, or via our social media, Motoman TV all one word, Motoman TV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As you can see, I am somewhat choked up about losing a vehicle like this. So, I'm going to say two things. Perhaps you should get on Kia's ass, or go buy one. And then, of course, I would greatly appreciate your help with the algorithm so we can drive more cars like this. What does that mean? Click subscribe, notifications, definitely hit like, and absolutely share all of these episodes with your friends on your socials. Until I see you in the next episode, hopefully with more rear-wheel drive, 300 horsepower sedans, not crossovers. Bis später.